Good morning. Today is Sunday, December 8th, and I'm about to administer my 42nd injection of Zepbound. 42 weeks. I started off the first 4 weeks, 2.5 milligrams. The rest of the time, I've been on 5 milligrams, which has worked just fine. I'm currently on maintenance, and my plan is to continue indefinitely on the 5 milligrams. The only reason I would change is if food noise that I felt was uncontrollable, insatiable appetite, things like that. I'm gonna go ahead and get this shot knocked out, and then I'll let you know how the last week has been. All right, I have my alcohol prep pad, my 5 milligram dose here. I've already washed my hands. And this week we're on the left side. I have rotated between the left and right side just because of a comfortability thing for me. So I take off the cap, apply it to the area, then I unlock, and then you're gonna hear a series of 2 clicks. First one letting you know it's starting, next one letting you know it's finished injecting the medication. All right, so let's listen up. All right, there was that second one. Usually wait a few seconds, take it away. Sometimes there's blood, sometimes there isn't. We have a little bit today. So I just take another pad and wipe it. And just like that, the injection is done. Welcome. My name is Taisha, and I realize that I don't think a lot of you know too much about me, and I've done a couple of interviews, and I have a playlist for that you can check out. I want to give you a brief history so that you understand why I'm here and how I got to this point. I spent the majority of my life, the first 33 years, relatively small. I'm 5'7". I was 5'7" in high school, and I weighed 112 pounds when I graduated. Now, after high school, I went directly into the Air Force, and once I finished basic training, I had gotten up to 118. So, I felt pretty good, really comfortable in my skin, more so than I was in high school. After having the first 2 kids, I probably stayed in the 120s. And then after having the last 3, I averaged between 128 and 132. I would say 132 was a comfortable weight for me. I actually felt more confident that way. Never had any issues. Now, as far as the way that I ate, the overeating and what's known now as food noise, and really quick about food noise. I know that a lot of people feel like that term is overused, but as soon as I heard it, I knew that's it. That perfectly describes it. It was like from the moment I woke up, I thought about food constantly. I would eat. The next thought would be when I'm gonna eat again at lunch, and that just continued. And I didn't have an upbringing where we were deprived or anything like that. And luckily, my parents, most of our meals were home cooked meals. So even though I ate bigger quantities, it was pretty balanced. Just the quantity was a lot. So when I got out on my own, I could make my own choices. And a lot of times that was, eating out, or, when I was in the military, I would go to the dining facility a lot and just eat there. So these patterns of eating in excess and constantly thinking about food stem back to when I was younger, but it never reflected outwardly. So I didn't pay attention to it, and neither did anyone else. So we fast forward, I went into the Army in 2006. Now, when I went in, I was 134 pounds and got through training. Things went well. I had kids number 4 and 5 in the Army, and then I ended up getting medically retired. Now, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder while I was in the Army. And that was in my 30s. I didn't know that I had it all that time. So once I started taking medications, that is when I started to notice weight gain. And, that was new for me. So all these years of poor habits, and when I say poor habits, it's not necessarily eating bad foods, it was overeating. And I was pretty active. So once I switched over to taking these medications, I wasn't as active, and I feel like I ate even more. And then things started to change and I started, slowly but surely gaining weight. Now, my highest weight was 216 pounds. And that was in the beginning of 2020, before COVID. So I can't even blame COVID. I started having these different medical issues, and I have a list of them, and I don't, there's no need to go into all of that right now. But the different things that I was taking medication for, a lot of the medications, the side effects were weight gain. I feel like for the longest time, I just leaned into that. Well, I'm gaining this weight because I have issues with my thyroid, or I have this weight gain because I'm on these meds, and that's what happens. And I really wasn't actively doing anything to try to improve my health. And that just continued, and it was just this cycle of gaining and losing, doing extreme things, losing weight, gaining more weight, and I did that for, until we get to this point, and that was earlier this year. Now, I tried Wegovy last year. I have a video about that if you're interested in knowing how that process went. But when I got prescribed Zepbound, I knew that this was going to be different this time. I just knew it. I just had this feeling. And I had said things in the past, but I really felt like, okay, I have to have a lifestyle change, because I was able to finally recognize the pattern. Like, okay, you do this stuff, you lose weight. So like, for example, from late 2020 to early 2021, mid 2021, I lost 84 pounds. And then slowly but surely, I gained 51 of those pounds back, 30 of them the end of 2023. So it was a pretty short span of time with a lot of weight gain. My plan was to cut out ultra-processed foods. I was going to move my body more, eliminate energy drinks, the lattes. I was drinking like 2 of those a day, a ridiculous amount of sweet tea every single day. So I definitely consumed more of those kind of fluids than I did water. My dietary, like as far as what I ate, I knew that that was going to be permanent. So I eat a whole food plant-based diet. If you're somebody who is also on a whole food plant-based diet and you're on this medication, comment below if you've had any issues with side effects or constipation or anything like that. I'm just curious to know. The plan was whole food plant-based diet, cutting out all these sugary, caffeinated drinks, drinking water. I stuck with that. I didn't do any exercise week 1. Week 2, I worked out a couple of times. The following week, I found Strong Sisters United, and I was gonna do her workouts. Throughout this time, I've done 4 of her programs, 1 of them twice, and that was a perfect start for me. I'm not a big cardio girl, so I found something that I enjoyed, and I was able to stick with it. From June until the first week of August, I was going out and walking with a friend 6 days a week for an hour. So every morning I would wake up and her and I would go on a walk, and that's how I was starting my day. And I really feel like that was great for setting the tone for my day, because I was starting off with already having something accomplished. The program that I'm doing now is by the YouTuber Lift with C. So I did her program called The Compound, which is an 8-week program. I started off with that. Then I did 6 weeks of exercises from her 20-minute playlist, and that's a total of 30, which 5 days a week, 6 weeks. So I did that, and now I'm back into The Compound. Yesterday was day 6 of week 3, so tomorrow I'll be starting week 4. Almost halfway through this series, and what I enjoy about strength training is, and these particular workouts, is they're short. They're doable for me. So on days, which believe me, they come, where I don't feel like doing anything, I'm like, okay, you know what? Just give it 5 minutes. And if you've watched my videos before, you've heard me say that. And it's really what I do. I work. Yesterday, for example, I laid around too long and it got late, and I was like, okay, go down here and get this workout done. It's only 10 minutes. So I didn't tell myself 5 minutes last night. I was just like, it's only 10 minutes, get it done. And then that's it. And that's what I did. And so these are things that I enjoy. So when I don't feel like it, it's a little bit easier to push myself forward. I get asked about how I stay motivated. I'm not always motivated. When you practice these habits, they start to become normal. So then when you don't do it, it just feels a little bit off. And if you're someone that has struggled with consistency, let me know in the comments, do you feel the same way? Like when you get used to doing something and you're knocked off, does it kind of mess with you and prevent you from going forward, or are you able to just jump right back into it? Previous versions of me were never able to jump back into things. I also had a tendency of doing too many things, working out, taking a Zumba class, doing another strength training class, working out on my own. Like that was a lot to keep going. So I didn't want to do that this time. So anyway, I'm trying not to be tangential. I have been strength training consistently for the past 40 weeks. So I've been on Zepbound for 42 weeks, and I've been strength training consistently for 40 of those 42 weeks. And it is now, I feel like it's safe to say that this is just habit, it's routine. Now, I don't have a specific time of day that I do things. I'm thinking about going back to, maybe next week I'll try getting up in the morning and doing my workout session first thing in the morning, and that sets the tone for the day. So I think that's what I'm sure that is what I'm going to do next week. Commit to that. So I don't know what time yet. I'm going to say 8 o'clock. That's what I'm shooting for. No later than 9. Consistency is so important. That is a word that is not overused. It is absolutely important. And discipline. Not discipline in the definition of punishment, but discipline in the sense of self-control. It's like anything else, it takes practice. So to spend so many years doing something and then stopping, I became conditioned to that, starting off and then just giving up. And so this time it has been different. And I have to admit, I lost weight really quickly in the beginning. And it wasn't good though. So I know a lot of you are looking for like the fastest way to lose weight and how quickly did you lose? How quickly did you get to your goal? It's all gonna look different. We can tell you, people that are making this content, we tell you this is how this process is going. This is how much weight I lost this week. But that doesn't mean that it's gonna be the same for you. And I know that that's an obvious statement, but by the questions, it doesn't always feel like that. It took me 26 weeks to get to my goal weight, and I've been on maintenance for 16 weeks. And it looks different for everybody. I was 183 pounds, and my goal weight just on paper was 135 pounds. And I weighed in this morning at 128, so I've been maintaining that. What I'm most proud of is that I kept on going. Exactly 1 year ago, I posted my first video on this channel, and it wasn't my Zepbound journey, but that video I posted because I was in that mindset where I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna share my journey. And that was it. I did not post another video until March, a month after I started my Zepbound journey. I kept that video up there because, first of all, it's a good video and it's about finding your why and how I had previously lost mine. I'm gonna link the video here, and I'm also gonna play it at the end. I just want you to know that this has not been a super easy, simple journey. The elimination of the food noise has been tremendous because that was something that was really a problem for me. But getting up, making sure I do my workouts every day, making sure that I'm keeping track of the things that I'm eating, it has become easier than when I started, but it's definitely not easy. And I only go into the depth of posting calories and all of that because those are questions that I started getting, pretty regularly. So that's why I share that. Prior to that, I was just taking pictures. I know what the measurements are. So it's kind of like once you start eating the same things, you get an idea of what you're consuming. That's it. It's not this super simple process. So don't beat yourself up if things are not going in this linear path that you thought they would be going in. It just takes time and we're all different. You know what I mean? Remember why you started, okay? And for those of you, if you're someone who is upset because you've been on this medication and you've only lost X amount of pounds, think about how it was going before you started the medication, because I'm guessing that you weren't even progressing the way that you are now. So we take these small wins and we go with it. And it's not about being under this illusion or, or anything like that. We're being real, we're being straight up. Everyone's process is different. If I could go back and do things differently, I wouldn't. At this point, I wouldn't change anything because it led me to where I am right now. If you have tried and you failed in the past, it's okay. They were temporary setbacks. You're here now. You're looking for the content. You're trying to find ways to make this process as efficient as possible for you. So commend yourself for that, especially if you don't have a history of doing that. We only fail when we give up. So as long as you still have hope, you're not a failure. You can be discouraged, disappointed, all of these things. Just keep going. And on that note, 2.0 Mommy will be joining me for tomorrow's live, which is week 4 of the GLP-1 empowerment program. The topic will be building resilience, thriving through setbacks, and I'm really excited to share that with you guys tomorrow. And again, I'll have 2.0 Mommy on and we'll be able to chat afterwards. So if you can come, it's 7 o'clock on Monday, Eastern Standard Time. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and check out the clip. Bye. I had a health scare in 2020 and I ended up in the hospital. Long story short, almost died. It changed me. It's the closest to a near-death experience that I've ever had. And so I was just like, oh my God, I can't live like this. And I felt it, right? It was just, everything felt different. October, I made the commitment, October of 2020. Look, I'm going Monday through Thursday. I scheduled it as an appointment, a recurrent appointment in my calendar. And let's see, what time? I'm trying to remember exactly what time I was going. Let's say 9 o'clock, right? Every day, no matter what. So any appointments, I made sure I scheduled them outside of that. I went every day and I started noticing changes and I started feeling good, which made me want to do it even more. And then it was effortless. There was not one day where I was just like, ugh. And I thought I was going to feel like that forever, right? So of course I got to where I was like, okay, well, I feel like this, anybody can do it. So instead of keeping the focus on myself, thought I wanted to be a coach and put this crazy amount of pressure. People started acting differently. I took a lot of that stuff personal, and it shouldn't have been because they were at different stages. I was doing the same thing to them that everyone else does when we realize something, right? We come to this realization. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not doing anything different than anyone else has, but we are just so excited and passionate, and we want to share it with anybody who will listen. I was posting videos. I kept getting stronger, and I was just like, oh my God, this is awesome. What took me so long, And it went on for a while, and I got to a point where it wasn't doing it for me anymore. I lost sight of my why. And this is why people say it's so important to have a why. I know I've said why like a bunch of times, but this is why it's crucial, because there is, the time is going to come. You may not see it in that moment. The time is going to come where you just don't feel like it. And I'm not saying that that's not okay, but if I had focused on my why, I probably would have continued.